We'll first have a Zoom presentation of this one, and then we'll move into the discussing segment as well. Professor Tang Xiaoyang is a Deputy Director, Carnegie Tsingua Center for Global Policy, joining us via Zoom with a presentation on this infrastructure construction and knowledge exchange. How can China and Africa improve the quality and sustainability of their cooperation? Prof, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the invitation. Can you hear me clearly?
It's very clear now.
Okay, great. And I have sent my slides. Could you please share the slides on the screen? Or if you cannot share the slides, then please make me the host so that I can share the slides from my side. Yeah. Is it possible for you? Okay, yeah, and now I can share the slides on my side. Okay, can you see the slides?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Yes, thank you very much again for the kind invitation, and it's really a pleasure to take part in this important discussion. And my topic is to combine infrastructure and knowledge exchange together. And my argument is this kind of combination can help China and Africa improve the quality and sustainability of their cooperation. So first, just a background. We see the China and Africa in general. So the ambassador and also the minister, they talked about the China and Ghana relationship before. And here I just give a picture of the overall cooperation between China and the continent. So we see, especially in trade, it has been growing steadily for the past 20 years. And China's trade with Africa today is more than Africa's trade with the US, Japan, France, and the UK combined. And especially in construction sector, so namely the infrastructure construction, China has taken more than 60% of Africa's entire construction market in 2019. And actually, for the last 2 years, this trend is not stopping. And China's FDI stock in Africa has also been increasing very rapidly. And in fact, even in the COVID pandemic, I know that still a lot of Chinese investors, they are very interested in investing in Africa. And then in addition to the economic side, then the FOCAC also forges strong political economic ties. And that's because the Chinese government and the business, they very clear that Africa has growth and opportunities. So on the right side, we see this picture of the increasing population of Africa. That's the red line. And it expects to catch up with the Asians' population in maybe 40 or 50 years. And also the population is very young, and that gives the dynamics of the continent. So everybody in China, we have this expectation that Africa is already at the vanguard of rapid industrialization. But currently, Africa also has a lot of underdeveloped industries. So that also gives the opportunities. And the investments in infrastructure, agriculture, and also service can facilitate this growth. And tapping these opportunities do not only help Africa, but also mutually beneficial for China. And especially then the infrastructure is a very important sector. So this is a picture of how China is building the different railways, roads, and also pipelines across the continent. So you can see they start from some different like east, west, southwest, south, also the north, from different directions. And maybe in the next 2 or 3 decades, these different parts, they can be connected and to become a cross-continent network of roads and railroads. And in addition, then the energy part, power plants, that's also another very demanded part of the infrastructure construction. So China, as well as the telecommunication and other facilities, these are all built by China. So it's a quite holistic approach from all the sides. But in the infrastructure construction, there's a big challenge, because some rumors said, okay, Chinese companies, they bring only Chinese workers to build this infrastructure so that Africans can profit just a little of this construction. But because Africa has a lot of undeveloped and unemployed local talents, so African countries are very concerned of building the Africans' human resource side by side with this hardware construction. And so that I have done quite a lot of research during past decade to investigate that part, namely the employment and training related to infrastructure between China and Africa. So my findings indicate that first, Chinese firms, they create a lot of jobs for African workers, and especially in manufacturing and construction. In fact, in manufacturing, the local employment rate can be as high as 95%. And in construction, the average local employment rate is around 85%. That's because in a construction sector, you need a lot of machine operators, and sometimes it needs time for training. Therefore, at the beginning, maybe the local employment ratio is not so high. And also in the Chinese companies in Africa, language barriers and skill gaps, they are the major obstacles for the development of local talents. And of course, it is acknowledged that most of the jobs in the Chinese companies, they are low and semi-skilled, and that's actually an aspect to be improved. I'm going to talk about how to improve it in the following. And yes, another question is also about the wage. People may also say that in China, Chinese companies pay low wages to African workers. And my findings suggest that wage actually depends a lot on the skill levels, also on job tenure, work experience, sector, and location. So I have done a comprehensive survey to find out the facts of this Chinese employment and training and wage, and in comparison to other foreign companies, as well as to the local companies. So here is a part of the finding. In Angola, why in Angola? Because Angola, they have a very strong tie with the Chinese construction companies. They borrowed more than 10 billion US dollars from China to build railroads, roads, and also schools and power plants and agricultural projects during past 20 years. So they have more than 100 Chinese companies in the construction sector. And with the survey, actually we find out this is a survey about the wage. So in the wage, it looks like the Chinese actually, maybe they started for the unskilled workers. Actually, the Chinese starting pay is smaller, lower than the other foreign companies and also the Angolan local companies. But that has a condition because the Chinese companies, they often work in the remote areas, while other foreign companies and other Angolan local companies, they work in Luanda, the capital. So that also make a big difference because in the capital, actually the wage certainly is higher. So actually then when we can look at the picture at the right, then we find out, in fact, for the semi-skilled workers, the Chinese companies, they actually put their wages even higher than other foreign companies and the Angolan companies. So this actually give a very interesting aspect of Chinese companies employment pattern, because they will give higher wage when these workers are skilled. So this is actually an important finding. So that means Chinese companies, they put a lot of value, attach a lot of value on the skilled workers. Another additional note is in addition to this nominal wage, Chinese companies also offer some like accommodation, food, or micro loans to their local employees. So these are some extra benefits. So this makes the Chinese wage actually quite similar to the local, to other like foreign companies and the local companies. But actually, very important takeaway is the skill is very important, highly regarded in the Chinese companies. And then how to fix the skill gap and utilize the local talent. So this is the Chinese government and the Chinese companies. They need to work together with African government and African societies together. So as actually the ambassador already mentioned, Chinese government offer a lot of aid programs and get the African students to study in China. But in these construction sectors, there are also orientation programs for the African local workers, and also there's the training of language skills for African workers, like how let them know the Mandarin, but also train the Chinese expats how the English so that they can communicate more smoothly. And then the skill building with the work, that's also important part. And then besides that, then the government agencies need to set up oversight mechanism, checking for bad labor practice. And there's another finding I did with some British scholars together on the provision of training in Chinese construction company in Ethiopia. So we find the dark line is the Chinese, and also again in comparison with the other foreign and the local companies, we find that actually the Chinese training in construction sectors is very high, right? More than other foreign companies. But some local companies maybe they have a higher, but that also has some like conditions, different different contexts. But in general, we see the Chinese, they provide trainings just quite similar to other companies, if not more. And but however, in this training process, we find some obstacles. So the first is the conditions between China and Africa vary greatly. So some training like computer skills or some IT knowledge trained in China, the workers, they find it difficult to implement in Africa because of this hardware and the related infrastructure is not strong enough to support the most up-to-date technology. And another big question is the staff turnover rate is very high. So a lot of trained workers.
Okay, please, just a quick announcement. Owner of car number GS252Y, GS252Y, kindly attend to your vehicle immediately. Car number GS252Y, please attend to your vehicle immediately. Prof, you can kindly continue.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so another thing is about the staff turnover of the Chinese companies in Africa. That's very high. That's also a bigger problem because when you train the workers, then they may leave very quickly, and then the training effort is wasted. And then another related to that is some of the effects of the construction projects are difficult to sustain. Famous example is the Tanzania-Zambia railway. So when it was built, then actually the operation and maintenance becomes very burdensome, and so that also actually hinders the program to upgrade and to train the workers continuously, and so therefore managerial knowledge is required. So this will bring to another question in this infrastructure construction, how to improve the quality. Namely, we need a managerial, so this management knowledge, it's as important as the technology and the skills, because the infrastructure, that's a very critical part of economic development. It's not just a commodity, like some the Washington consensus, they may say, okay, you need a free market. But in fact, we find out in the Africa's history, when you really liberalize and privatize all this infrastructure investment, then private businesses, they cannot afford or they are not willing to invest this. So therefore, that's why the Chinese investment is important, because that combines commercial interest and public interest together. But even when China is good at building infrastructure, but how to sustain and maintain this infrastructure, that requires the local workers and especially local managers to keep these projects running. So this is my some final notes on how to improve the knowledge so that the infrastructure construction can continue and then move forward. So first, then we need to increase the portion of local staff in management positions. Second, then we need to facilitate more communication in the strategic decision making. So not only in this unskilled or semi-skilled positions, but we also need the supervisors. And then the efficiency-oriented Chinese management should be combined with sufficient cultural and social discussion with the local workers. For example, below this on the right bottom, this picture is the Chinese style of very efficient and strict training. But whether the local people can accept it or not, actually the Chinese should discuss with the local managers together and and maybe do some adjustment and modification. And the fourth point is that we need more scientific and systematic project management and information exchange. So namely, introduce the latest IT technology and the latest management skills to improve the management of infrastructure projects altogether. Okay, these are all my discussion for the infrastructure and the knowledge transfer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Please, round of applause for Professor Tang. Thank you very much.